Hi, and welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Johnny DC.
And I'm his twin brother, Marvelous Joe.
And this is our 94th episode. We're counting down to our 100th episode where we have this big surprise.
Medium surprise.
It's going to be a cool episode. Counting down to it. 6 more episodes to go. In this episode, we are going to be pitting John Constantine against Brother Voodoo.
Yeah, I consider this kind of like our Halloween duel. We're dealing with two masters of the occult here. I really like Constantine and Brother Voodoo. I think their appeal lies in their ability to do magic well, but not necessarily easily. Whereas Dr. Fate and Dr. Strange, which is a duel match that we did earlier, those two are like the Supermen of magic in their respective universes.
I guess these are more like the Batman.
Yeah, these are more like the Batman. They have to be a little bit more resourceful.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot.
Yeah, and of course we're doing this episode not only because it's Halloween and they're kind of like occult kind of figures, but also because we reviewed Constantine City of Demons in our last episode.
Right.
So this is just sort of tying into that. But we'll get into that duel later on. Before that, we're going to break down the news from the past week. Not much news.
Really sad news.
Sad news for the most part. But we're going to touch on Wonder Woman 1984 being pushed back a year. Dang it. Luke Cage, his show on Netflix, has been canceled. Dang it. And then the Reign of the Supermen trailer. Whatever.
That was all right. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Go ahead and look at the chapter times in the show notes in the episode description to skip to a particular topic if you want to.
And a quick thank you to Papa Geo 506 and Unique Podcast, and to everyone else who's rated us on iTunes.
Yeah, thank you.
As you know from our past few episodes, we've been mentioning that we're really trying to hit the 200 ratings mark in iTunes in order to become like official Rotten Tomatoes certified critics.
Yeah, we've reviewed a lot of Marvel and DC films over the years, and I think it would be cool to have those reviews count toward the official Tomato Meter score. Because they're the right opinions.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of always been my dream to be a movie critic ever since I was a teenager in high school. One of my first jobs was working at a newspaper with the hope that one day I would be able to advance to the film critic position. That never happened because the newspaper went out of business. But, this is kind of another way to accomplish that goal.
Yeah. So any help you give us, we are super appreciative.
Yes, thank you. Just a heads up, this Thursday on Patreon, we will be releasing a bonus episode. It was part of the secret project that we were working on in the month of September that we will be announcing to everybody else on our 100th episode. But patrons get early access to that, and so can you if you go to patreon.com/dynamicduel. And for just $2 a month, sign up to get weekly bonus content of this show.
Yeah, it's only $2 a month. You know what else you could get for $2?
Not much.
Nothing. I don't know where I was going with that.
But one of our goals on Patreon is to get to 25 subscribers, at which point we will print out physical copies of the Dynamic Duel No Prize that we award to a lucky listener each week who gave our favorite answer to that episode's question of the week. And speaking of no prizes,
it's no prize time. So a no prize is an award that Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on social media that I personally draw for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. Last week's question was, other than Iron Fist, what canceled Marvel or DC television show do you miss the most?
Yeah, we had a ton of answers for this one. A lot of them were animated shows. Yeah, I was surprised by that. I guess there haven't been as many live-action shows throughout history as there have been animated shows, so that's understandable.
Yeah, I miss Smallville. There's been a few.
Yeah, I miss Agent Carter, I think. That was a good one. The second season was kind of crappy, but I thought it was well put together, and I really love Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it. But honorable mention goes to John Spees, who gave the answer Luke Cage. Too soon.
Too soon.
We'll be talking about that later. George Kronitis gave the answer Deadpool, the animated series, which never came out.
Yeah, it never came to fruition, so I guess he misses the idea of it.
Yeah. Adam Spees gave the answer Inhumans, which was a joke.
Nobody misses that show.
Joel Seagrave gave the answer Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah, which I think was a superior cartoon adaptation of Spider-Man than the 90s series.
Really?
But that also made the list, and that was the answer given by Ken Johnson.
Yeah. Also, honorable mention goes to David Salias, who gave the answer Young Justice, which that's coming back.
Right.
So
yeah,
it hasn't really been canceled. Hunter Holmgren gave the answer the 60s Batman show, which was a good answer.
Yeah.
Like,
Or as cheesy as it was, it had a lot of appeal.
yeah, especially as a kid. Jacob Bell gave the answer Batman Beyond.
Love that show.
Yeah.
Still waiting on that live action adaptation for that one.
Right? I think it's past its prime.
You think?
Yeah.
They need to bring it back in some form.
They do. Laren Nuki and Adrian Maines gave the answer Batman the Animated Series, which, yes. And you can catch all those episodes now, the entire series, on DC Universe, which I'm currently doing, and it's awesome.
What is this, an ad for DC Universe?
Yes, it is. Buy it.
Jeez. Also, honorable mention to Tim Brown for giving the answer the whole Timverse, although I think he's biased with that one because it's the Timverse and his name is Tim.
No, I don't think you have to be biased to really appreciate the Timverse. All the animated series, Batman, Superman, Static Shock, Justice League, Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
So many. They're all great. They're all fantastic. But the winner, we are giving to Barbara Garcia for her answer of Constantine.
The live action show, right?
Yeah, the one that was on NBC. Which not only is a timely answer for this episode, but one that I'm missing more and more that I see Matt Ryan as Constantine. He's just
he's on Legends of Tomorrow now.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, but his show should have never been canceled. It was too good. It had way too much promise, and the character is just too awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, congrats again to Barbara Garcia for winning this week's No Prize. If you want to win a Dynamic Duel No Prize, stay tuned to later on this episode when we give another question of the week. With that out of the way,
on to the news. So Gal Gadot announced on her social media accounts today that Wonder Woman 1984 is being pushed back from its original November 1st, 2019 date to June 5th, 2020.
When I first heard this news, I thought that there was something wrong with the production.
Right.
I was kind of saddened by the news. Even though I'm not a fan of DC, I really did like the Wonder Woman movie, and I was looking forward to the next installment.
I mean, I'm definitely saddened by this. It's one less DC film that I get next year. I mean, besides that, we have the Joker, we have Shazam still, but I really liked the Wonder Woman film, and I was looking forward to the sequel.
It's not production issues, though. It looks like it's more of a strategic release date for them. Pretty much the same spot that they had when they released the first Wonder Woman film.
It's the exact same day.
Okay.
Yeah. It is a better release date than November 1st, because, I mean, if you think about it, November 1st is just a few weeks away from when we were recording this episode, and it's not like the biggest movie season. It's more of like an award season time frame for films.
Yeah, and also if it had the November 1st date, it would only be releasing a few weeks after the Joker film as well.
Yeah.
So I think maybe DC was balking at the idea of releasing two DC films so close together.
Right.
Because Wonder Woman would be biting into the Joker's grosses.
You know what? I forgot about that. I totally forgot that the Joker was opening so close to Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
That has to be the reason why they're doing this. It has to be. I hope it's not production issues, because I know that there's been some snippets of news items, like characters and plot details that have been released that aren't 100% confirmed. But like Pedro Pascal is definitely going to be Maxwell Lord.
You called it.
I totally called it.
Yep.
Which kind of disappoints me, because the details that have been revealed also include that like he's responsible for Steve Trevor's resurrection, and I'm like, how is Maxwell Lord capable of doing that? He's not.
Yeah, he shouldn't be. He's only low-level telepath.
I was really hoping that Hades was going to be the villain, as I've mentioned on this podcast before, but I guess that's not going to be the case.
Well, maybe Hades is working with Maxwell Lord or something like that.
We can only hope.
Yeah,
but of course that's three villains then: Maxwell Lord, Hades, and Cheetah. I don't know. Who knows?
That's true.
But, I mean, if it gives them more time to work on the film, more time to, make it really something polished and great for the summer blockbuster season, then it was probably a good choice in the long run.
Yeah, it just means that we'll see the trailer later, though. I think we would have gotten it during the Aquaman movie.
Yeah.
But now that's probably not going to be the case, considering it won't even come out for more than a year and a half after Aquaman.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see it with Shazam. Maybe not. We'll definitely get something during next year's Comic-Con.
Definitely get something during the Joker movie that comes out next year.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
In other news, the Luke Cage Netflix series has been canceled right off the fucking back of the news that the Iron Fist series has been canceled. What the hell is going on?
And we talked about this last week in our last episode.
Right.
And I was like, there's talk about that being either renewed or not renewed in a few days.
Yeah, a season 3 announcement for Luke Cage was like imminent last week when we talked about this. And now it's like the complete opposite. We're not getting any more Luke Cage. And a lot of people are saying that this is Netflix's retaliation against Disney for Disney pulling all of their content off of their service onto their own service next year at the Disney Play app. And I have no idea what to believe. Like, there were some statements going around on Deadline saying that the reason Luke Cage was canceled was due to creative differences.
Yes, between Netflix and the Marvel writers.
Right. And it's so weird because the writers had scripts going, and those scripts had notes from both Marvel and Netflix, and so it looks like they were compromising and everything like that. But something really went sour, allegedly, within the past 48 hours that led Netflix to consider retooling the entire creative team, which they've done before on these Netflix shows, and I guess they didn't think it was worth it this time. Possibly because of ratings. I'm not sure, though. Which is a shame because these shows deserve to be watched, especially Luke Cage Season 2.
Yeah, Season 2 was such a good launch pad.
It was fantastic. Season 2 of Luke Cage was just as good, I would say, as the earlier seasons of Daredevil and Jessica Jones.
Yeah, I agree. I love Bushmaster. I loved Mariah Dillard. Such complex characters all around.
And like Iron Fist Season 2, Luke Cage also ended on a cliffhanger.
Big cliffhanger.
Yeah, huge one that I was really looking forward to see get resolved, and now that will never happen. There have been some people who have said that perhaps this will lead to a Heroes for Hire show, and maybe that's the reason why they canceled both Iron Fist and Luke Cage, was to consolidate the two characters. But I do not think that's going to happen based on the reports of what's going on behind the scenes at both Netflix and Disney.
You know, if Netflix gets someone that they like, maybe. Does Netflix like money? Do they like making money? Then yeah, do a Heroes for Hire show, because that would be badass.
It would. Yeah, you would take two characters that have a huge fan base, you know? You get to see Colleen Wing again, you get to see Misty Knight. I think we briefly talked about this idea in our last episode, and I think this is the best way to go. If Netflix doesn't do it, I would really like to see Disney develop a Heroes for Hire show using these same actors.
I don't think that's going to happen on Disney Play.
Why?
Because
too kid-friendly?
Disney Play is going to be too kid-friendly, and these shows are too mature. I don't think...
But don't you think you could approach the Heroes for Hire, both Luke Cage and Iron Fist, with a little bit more of a PG-13 take than their more mature takes on the Netflix series?
You could, but I don't think they would.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Because it still takes place in the same universe as, you know, like Daredevil and Jessica Jones and apparently the rest of the MCU. I don't know. Maybe you could.
Are you feeling nervous for a fourth season of Jessica Jones and a fourth season of Daredevil?
Maybe Jessica Jones, because I wasn't thrilled with season 2, but I definitely think Daredevil... I've just started this new season, but I've heard great things about the season overall.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that'll be renewed. I'm pretty sure Punisher, maybe? Who knows?
Who knows anymore? Punisher had a great first season, and hopefully this second season is up to par. Otherwise, it'll probably find itself in the same situation as Iron Fist and Luke Cage, unfortunately.
Which is crazy. It just still baffles me because how often does Netflix cancel shows?
Rarely.
Yeah.
They rarely do that. I think the thing that hurts the most, more than the loss of the shows, are the loss of the actors playing the characters. Because while a lot of people would say that Finn Jones is not a great Danny Rand, I'd probably agree with him. He kind of grew on me. Like, there's an appeal to the character that I'm going to miss. But even more than that, I'm really going to miss Mike Coulter because...
Absolutely.
He was Luke Cage personified.
Absolutely.
And he was great in the role.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Fuck! Why? Why must all good things die?
I don't know. It sucks, though. All right. Moving on to the next bit of news.
Oh, yeah, the Reign of the Supermen trailer. So this is the sequel of sorts. It's like part 2 of a 2-part story following the Death of Superman animated film that came out earlier this year, that we reviewed earlier this year.
Right.
And it's a pretty short trailer. It clocks in just under 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. It starts off with, you know, like this voiceover from Lex Luthor talking about, like,
who are these other Supermen?
Who are they and what kind of role does Superman have when Superman has died? We get, you know, visual introductions to Steel, Superboy, the Eradicator, and Cyborg Superman. They all look badass. They all look really cool. Can't wait to see them, you know, in action. Because these animated films are pretty action heavy, you know, especially the Death of Superman.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing where they take this story from here. I can't tell. I mean, obviously the villain of the story is going to be Cyborg Superman. That might be a spoiler.
You think?
Absolutely.
Well, it looks to me like it's going to be like the Manhunters or something, or some kind of robots that...
So you thought those were Manhunters too?
That's what I assumed.
I wasn't sure.
There was an army of these like alien robot-looking things that were flying in to take over Earth or something, it looks like.
Yeah, it makes sense because in the comics, Cyborg has taken over the Manhunters before. But that was like, like in a Green Lantern storyline.
Huh.
So, I mean, but there's precedence for it. I think that would be cool. I think that would be really cool, actually. Just because of more of the tie that Cyborg Superman has with Green Lantern. He's very much a Green Lantern villain, I would say.
Oh, really?
In addition to being a Superman villain. So we'll see how much of a role those guys have. The Justice League is definitely in this film. We see them in this trailer. We get more voiceover from Lois Lane, played by Rebecca Romijn. She did a fantastic job in the first film.
Yeah.
I hope that they keep this a personal story, because the death of Superman was very much a personal story.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And it looks like they will be, just shots of like Lois Lane having brunch with Wonder Woman and Bilbo Babowski like rallying some kind of crowd. I already know it's going to be a tearjerker, just like the death of Superman was probably.
Who's your favorite of the 4 Supermen that are replacing Superman here?
Steel. He's always been my favorite of the 4.
Yeah.
The Superboy comes in a close second.
I don't know much about the Eradicator. So hopefully they go into heavy backgrounds on each of these characters.
Yeah, they touched on him in the first film. But I'm sure they'll go into more detail. Of course, the trailer ends with possibly a spoiler. It's Superman's eyes opening and, they're glowing red.
Right.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
We all know he returns. Come on. But that's the trailer. I think the film is coming out January of next year, and we'll be reviewing it. So look forward to that.
Yep. And tangentially relating to the death of Superman, that brings us to our question of the week. Which character had the most memorable death scene in a Marvel or DC television series? Now, I know we kind of asked this question before with Marvel or DC film, and we got a lot of great answers like Gwen Stacy, Phil Coulson, Rorschach, Logan, a bunch of great ones, Yondu. But this time we're looking for the best death scene in a television show. There have been a lot of good ones of those too. So go ahead and post your answer to our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll pick our favorite answer and draw that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to social media.
That's a good, dark Halloween morbid question.
Yeah, we'll see what answers we get.
Yeah.
And I think that does it for all the news. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into our duel where we discuss who will win in a fight between Constantine and Brother Voodoo.
Let's do it. All right, so Constantine versus Brother Voodoo. Now, when we found out that the Constantine animated film was going to be released so close to Halloween, we knew that we wanted to do a Constantine duel match.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say we had the easiest time figuring out a good match for Constantine.
Right,
because
yeah.
he's such a unique character.
Yeah, Brother Voodoo didn't immediately come to mind, but when he did, I do feel like he might be Marvel's perfect match to go up against Constantine, because they're both kind of lower level sorcerers compared to like Dr. Fate and Dr. Strange, but they both have a shit ton of tricks up their sleeve. They're both very resourceful characters. I think it's going to be a great match.
Yeah, I think the Batman description was pretty apt earlier on. Once you did mention Brother Voodoo for this match, the only thing I could think of was like, oh, he's like Marvel's Papa Midnight.
Right, yeah, kind of.
Who's a rival for Constantine in DC Comics. So I was like, oh, this is going to be great. This is perfect.
And that would have been a good match too, Brother Voodoo versus Papa Midnight, because they're both practitioners of voodoo. And as you know, he was played by Jaimin Hansu in the Keanu Reeves Constantine film.
Yeah.
But I like this match, Brother Voodoo versus Constantine, more just because Constantine is a bigger player in the DC universe than Papa Midnight.
I think he'll put up more of a fight.
Yeah. So can't wait to get into the breakdowns of these characters and the speculation on how we think a fight between them will go, because it'll get pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think so. If you haven't listened to our podcast before, the way we do our duel episodes is statistics. It's all stat-based. We use a probabilistic model known as the Monte Carlo method to randomize stats that we compile in part using the official Marvel Power Rankings grid.
Right.
Which we, take DC stats from that, and we add a few more that we think may be pertinent to the battles.
Yeah, basically the Monte Carlo method randomizes each stat along a bell curve among a standard deviation, and we take those numbers and add them up and compare them to the other guys, and we do that 1,000 times to determine who the winner is.
Yeah, and of these 1,000 matches, we get a percentage of wins. No characters win 100% of the time. There's always a way for one character to defeat another, and that's sort of what the deviation accounts for, variables that could come into battles.
And it's true to comics, too, because some characters always find a way to beat another character no matter what happens.
Yeah, like Constantine,
Yes, these two characters especially have beaten the odds time and time again.
For sure. So there's no bias, no fan votes, no uncharacteristic feats of strength, just base stats, all the time.
Yep. And before we run the simulations, we like to give a breakdown of the character's history and their abilities.
Yeah, so I think you start with Brother Voodoo first. I think it's your turn. I'm looking forward to this. I know nothing about the character, so...
Yeah, I mean, though the character has been around since the early 1970s, I didn't really become a fan of Brother Voodoo until I read about him as a guest character in a Gambit comic from about a decade and a half ago. He labeled himself as the protector of New Orleans and the Bayou area, and I found it fascinating because it's a region that's not often explored in Marvel Comics.
Yeah, they're mostly in New York.
Yeah, I like the idea of a superhero that's tied to voodoo. Not the African religion necessarily, which is voodoo spelled with a U, but, the fictionalized type of occult sorcery from the Caribbean area, which is, I think, technically called hoodoo. Jericho Drum and his twin brother Daniel grew up in poverty with their Aunt Matilda in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Their native culture was steeped in mysticism and magic, and while Daniel embraced the voodoo legends and lore, Jericho grew up a skeptic. So as Daniel trained with a local priest named Papa Jumbo in the ways of voodoo sorcery, Jericho left Haiti for the United States to study psychology and get his doctorate. Being what he considered an educated man, Jericho regarded his former culture as superstitious nonsense, and he was gone for 12 years before he received word that his brother Daniel was sick and dying back in Haiti. Jericho returned to find that Daniel had mastered the practices of voodoo and had been serving as the supreme Houngan, or priest. A rival sorcerer who claimed to wield the power of the spirit god Damballa tried to take over a nearby village, and Daniel fought to stop him. But the Damballa sorcerer placed a powerful curse on Daniel that made him deathly ill. When Jericho returned, Daniel made him vow to visit Papa Jumbo deep in the jungle and enlist his aid in avenging his death and defeating Damballa. Filled with rage at the death of his brother, Jericho confronted the evil sorcerer, though was nearly killed by his black magic. Humbled, he wrapped his brother's body up and took it to Papa Jumbo deep in the jungle, where he tutored in the ancient mystical ways of their people, just as Daniel had done. Jericho's training culminated in a ritual in which Papa Jumbo summoned Daniel's spirit back from the dead and bound it to Jericho's soul, allowing the brothers to communicate once more and fight evil together, granting Jericho with the title of Brother Voodoo, the supreme Houngan of Haiti. It was revealed that Papa Jumbo was the last living Lord of Loa, a powerful voodoo spirit who believed he found a successor in Jericho and released himself into the afterlife realm of Bondier. Jericho confronted Damballa again, and empowered by his brother's presence, defeated the sorcerer by destroying his amulet and letting him be consumed by his own serpents. Jericho returned to the US to live in New Orleans' French Quarter, from where he would travel around the Southeast and Caribbean regions fighting evil Loa, such as Baron Samedi, the voodoo spirit of the dead, who conjured a way to create living zombies, also known as Zubembis.
Baron Samedi, isn't that like a James Bond villain?
Yeah, it's a James Bond villain based off of an actual voodoo deity. He's the spirit of the dead in voodoo. Yeah. So Jericho occasionally assisted other Marvel heroes with their supernatural threats, such as Blade against vampires, Moon Knight against werewolves, Ghost Rider against demons, and Iron Fist when he once exhausted his mystical life force, saving the life of Luke Cage. After the events of World War Hulk, during which Doctor Strange used powerful black magic in an attempt to stop the Hulk, the title of Sorcerer Supreme went to Brother Voodoo. The Eye of Agamotto left Strange and chose Jericho as its wielder, making him not only the most powerful Houngan, but the most powerful sorcerer in general. Doctor Strange tutored him in the wider world of magic, and with his newfound power, Jericho was able to restore reality to normal after an invasion of the villain Nightmare had transformed the world into chaos. Now going by the name Dr. Voodoo, he performed his duties as Sorcerer Supreme while also running a free clinic in New Orleans. At this time, he also started dating Monica Rambeau, who was the former Captain Marvel and was known as Photon at the time.
Wow.
After the Marvel deity known as Agamotto was cast out of the Vishanti, which is a group of elite mystic spirits in the Marvel Universe, Agamotto attacked Jericho in an effort to reclaim his eye from him. Jericho was able to defeat Agamotto using the eye, but lost his life doing so. He was later resurrected by Dr. Doom in order to use Daniel's possession power to stop the Scarlet Witch from destroying reality in the Axis event, during which heroes became villains and villains became heroes. Afterward, Jericho and Daniel joined the Avengers Unity division, fighting alongside Earth's mightiest heroes. In my readings and research, Brother Voodoo's abilities are less of a defined power set and more of a collection of one-off acts of power, but I will try and narrow this down as best as I can for the purposes of this match. Consistently, Brother Voodoo has the power of smoke and fire manipulation. He's impervious to flame and can teleport through the smoke. In addition, he can hypnotize animals and plant life into doing his bidding, as well as, occasionally, the undead. He's commanded zombies to do his bidding, as well as raise them up from the ground like a necromancer. Brother Voodoo also has a staff with 2 shrunken heads on it that he uses for a variety of effects, such as emitting powerful magical blasts and creating magic shields, as well as performing a fighting style known as Koko Makaku, the Caribbean martial art of the walking stick. He can also fly, but his greatest consistent power, I think, is the spirit of his brother living within his soul. Jericho can call upon Daniel from within to enhance his physical strength and speed to peak human levels. He can also summon Daniel out into the world, and Daniel can be used to possess another living being.
Like Deadman?
Putting it in DC terms, yeah, it's like he has his own Deadman.
Oh, crap. That's pretty cool.
It is really cool. I really like Brother Voodoo a lot.
Wait, so you said Daniel was Jericho's twin brother? They're twins?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's crazy. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I thought so too. I didn't know that they were actually twins. I just knew that they were brothers. So
Go twins.
Yay! So yeah, he basically has a smorgasbord of powers. But also,
I mean, that's the same case with like Doctor Strange and Dr. Fate to a certain extent.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you define their powers when they're like just like these all-powerful sorcerers?
Right. If you give Brother Voodoo enough time, though, and he's able to communicate with the Loa through prayer and meditation, he can almost do anything. Like I've seen him explode like a demon just from within, just by asking the Loa for a favor. So you better not let Brother Voodoo have any praying time during this match.
Oh, same with John Constantine, except he won't be praying; he'll be doing some kind of sigil on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah. To go into John Constantine, he is a manipulative, morally ambiguous, chain-smoking sorcerer created by Alan Moore in the mid-'80s. He originated as a recurring Swamp Thing character, a supernatural advisor of sorts who seemingly knew everything and everyone involved in any way with magic. He had the longest running and most successful comic series in DC's Vertigo imprint, Hellblazer, in which he helped popularize the modern and occult detective fiction genre, paving the way for characters like Hellboy and shows like Supernatural. In the comics, the character is actually the descendant of a long line of sorcerers, his bloodline often referred to as the Laughing Magicians, or the Constant Ones, known for their luck and trickery. His mom died giving birth to him and his stillborn twin brother, whom John strangled in the womb.
What?
John's alcoholic father blamed him for his mother's death, and the two resented each other as John grew up. When he was 16, he ran away from his Liverpool home to London, where he found a roommate and friend in Francis Chaz Chandler. John fell in with occult circles while in London, as well as with punk rock music, and he formed a band called Mucous Membrane.
Gross.
As they traveled through Europe, John picked up new magic tricks and trinkets and grew more and more confident in his occult abilities. That changed when Mucous Membrane played a show at the Casanova Club in Newcastle. He stumbled on the slaughtered remains of a satanic orgy, whose members had been killed by a demon named Norfolthing, which was summoned by a young abused girl named Astra Logue. The demon killed Astra's father, the club owner, and others who harmed her. John convinced his bandmates and a few friends to help destroy the demon by summoning a more powerful one of their own. And it worked.
Was that Demon Nergal?
Yeah.
I know that because of the City of Demons movie that we reviewed last week.
Exactly. But John didn't summon the demon by his true name, Nergal, and therefore had no way to bind and banish what he had brought forth. Nergal tortured and killed John's friends before taking Astra back to hell with him. After reliving nightmares of the event and being haunted by the ghosts of his dead friends, John suffered a mental breakdown and was admitted to Ravenscar Psychiatric Hospital, where he stayed for some time. After being taken out of Ravenscar, John traveled across America, where he met allies and rivals, including Swamp Thing and Papa Midnight. In Iowa, he got caught in a battle between a cult known as the Resurrection Crusade and the demon Nergal's Damnation Army. John was in an accident and was hospitalized when Nergal gave him some of his blood, tainting him, a taint that John transferred to a woman named Zed, who had been the Resurrection Crusade's planned mother for a Christ child they were trying to bring to Earth. Realizing he'd been used by Nergal, John taunted the demon into coming after him and led him to the borders of heaven, where he was ripped apart by angels. Later, when John found out that he had lung cancer, he went to a friend and fellow occultist named Brendan Finn for help, only to learn Brendan too was dying. They shared a final drink together before Brendan died, and the first of the Fallen, who is essentially Satan in DC Comics and one of the 3 Lords of Hell, came to collect Brendan's soul, as Brendan had sold it to him prior. John conned the first into drinking holy water disguised as alcohol, poisoning him and preventing him from taking Brendan's soul to hell. Because of this, the first claimed John's soul for hell and promised it would be tortured unlike any soul before it. Not wanting that, John secretly sold his soul to the 2 other Lords of Hell without any of them knowing. When John did die, all 3 lords came for his soul. Shocked and enraged, they healed him of his cancer rather than risk an all-out war amongst themselves. John thanked them by giving them the finger. Years later, when John was involved in a magic war in London, John accidentally freed an entity known as the Beast, who was able to control the collective unconsciousness of mankind.
Hey, there's a Beast in Marvel too. He's the demonic spirit behind the ninja group known as the Hand.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. John was able to defeat the Beast, but gained amnesia in the process. In order to get his memories back, he agreed to spend a day in service to a demon named Rosicrucius, who forced him to father 3 demonic children that went on to kill most of his remaining family members and anyone he knew, including his older sister Cheryl at the hand of her possessed husband. John journeyed to hell to save his sister's soul with the help of Rosicrucius' father, the resurrected demon Nergal. John offered Rosicrucius his soul in place of his sister's, but the first of the Fallen intervened, claiming John's soul as his own before killing Rosicrucius and John's children. Nergal freed Cheryl's soul afterward, but the first of the Fallen made a deal with her after, revealing that her husband committed suicide after he'd realized he'd killed his wife, and she stayed in hell to accept half of her husband's eternal punishment, despite John's protests.
Wow.
John later realized that most of the bad luck in his life came from the soul of his unborn twin brother, whose soul was still tied to his and whose destiny it was to become the Laughing Magician. Suggesting they fully merge souls to realize their full potential, John instead cut out his brother's soul from his own. Despite marrying a woman named Epiphany Graves soon after, John's bad luck continued, as his niece, a witch named Gemma Constantine, stole his demonically possessed trenchcoat and sold it on eBay in retaliation for her mother's damnation. Constantine was able to retrieve both his trenchcoat and his sister's soul from hell, but he was shot dead not long after, and was resurrected by his wife Epiphany after she made cigarettes from his ashes and his ghost smoked them.
That makes no sense.
It's a thing. The Hellblazer series ended shortly afterward, with a final confrontation between him and Gemma that was kind of ambiguous in that she shot him, but he disappeared, and then the last panel of the last comic was just him as an old man with a surprised look on his face holding a beer in a bar.
That's weird.
In the New 52 reboot, John was one of the original members of Justice League Dark. John is a sorcerer, but he rarely relies on magic, and he avoids combat. If he had one specific power, it would be his supreme knowledge of the arcane. Many across heaven and hell have labeled him as the foremost master of the occult on Earth. So having studied the occult since he was a child, John is capable of exorcising and summoning demons, placing curses that trap people in time or transfer damage and pain dealt to him onto others, and crafting sigils that hide him from the most powerful in heaven and hell. He can summon and control fire, cast illusions, and unconsciously manipulate probability in his favor, making his own luck.
Like Domino?
Yeah, it's an ability called synchronicity. He has demonically tainted blood that can heal him, a durable, sentient trenchcoat that can control or strangle others, and various other magical artifacts, including the key to the House of Mystery, which he can summon anywhere. Of course, John is also a master of deception and manipulation, having conned both the devil and God. And that's Constantine.
He sounds both vague and powerful. Like, what do you mean? He doesn't use magic that often?
He doesn't fight that often.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not like Dr. Fate. Well, he'll just like charge into battle, shooting energy blasts and stuff like that.
Okay, interesting. All right, well, now we're going to go ahead and speculate on how we think a fight between Constantine and Brother Voodoo would pan out. Now, this speculation that we're going to discuss has nothing to do with the actual simulations that we run.
Or the final results.
Yeah, but we think it's fun to do just as a way to visualize the fight and not just keep it all about numbers.
Yeah, we do set a few rules for the match. The characters start off about 50 yards apart. They don't know anything about each other, but they do know that each other are threats and that they need to take the other person down.
Yeah, and they fight in a non-environment location, and by that I mean they fight in a location in which their surroundings play no part in the fight.
Right, because certain characters have advantages in some environments that would affect the battle too much.
Right, and we don't take stats for the environment.
Because it's too big of a variable.
Yeah. So they fight based off of their own merits and not anything else.
Right.
Let's go ahead and get into this then. The characters start off 50 yards apart.
John Constantine starts off by going, oh, bloody hell, and lighting a cigarette.
So Brother Voodoo sees John lighting a cigarette, and he uses his pyrokinesis powers to engulf John in flames. So he's on fire now.
Okay. All right.
It turns out, like, starting out by lighting a cigarette was, like, the worst way you could have started this fight.
That's what you think. Uh-huh. John, like, summons all the fire he's engulfed in into his hand, and he shoots it towards the ground, and around his feet, the fire forms a sigil.
Oh, that's cool. What kind of sigil is it?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Okay, so Dr. Voodoo sees that Constantine has created like a protective spell or something is what I'm guessing it is. So he puts up his own defenses in that he starts summoning this smoke around him and actually around the entire arena or wherever they're fighting. And so Constantine is enshrouded in smoke. And what's cool about the smoke that Brother Voodoo generates is that it like plays this loud drumming music that kind of disorients whoever's inside of the smoke. And Brother Voodoo can teleport from wherever he wants to within the smoke, because that's one of his abilities is to teleport through smoke. So Constantine has no idea where Brother Voodoo is or where he's going to come from.
Well, Constantine has like a mystic awareness. He could sense magic. So Brother Voodoo is not going to sneak up on him, even if he could teleport.
So Constantine is just standing there, and I think Brother Voodoo is going to appear behind him just out of the smoke, and he's going to strike Constantine with his Staff of Legba.
But little did he know that the sigil that was around Constantine's feet, or I guess he did know that, was a protective one. So right when he tries to strike him, once he crosses the barrier of the sigil, there's a bright flash of light, and Brother Voodoo gets flown backwards, and he loses his staff.
Okay, so he drops his staff. There's still smoke covering the environment, so he just teleports within the smoke to where his staff is and picks it up again.
That's when Constantine does a quick spell over his cigarette, and all the smoke gets absorbed and sucked into his cigarette.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Then he takes the cigarette, he throws it on the ground, and snubs it out with his foot. And that makes it so that Brother Voodoo can't summon smoke, but he doesn't know that yet.
All right, that's kind of interesting. Is Constantine still protected by his sigil?
Yes.
Is he gonna just stay there? He probably will, huh?
Yeah, he's just gonna stay there. Why is he gonna have to move? He's Constantine.
Okay, so Brother Voodoo knows that at this point he can't physically cross this protective barrier, I guess. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna summon his brother Daniel's spirit from him to go and cross that barrier and possess Constantine.
Except that Constantine can't get possessed.
What do you mean?
Because of his demon blood, it's revolting to possess him. So no demon wants to.
What?
Yeah, so Daniel goes into him and he quickly goes out. I was like, ugh. And Constantine's like, yeah, man, I should have warned you about that one. You don't want to do that.
Is that true? Is that from the comics?
Yeah. And then he's like, and in fact, you shouldn't even be here. Constantine does a quick incantation and a portal opens up under Daniel, and Daniel gets sucked down into hell.
That's fucked up.
And then Constantine says, look, mate. Obviously, you don't want to fight me. I don't want to fight you. We've been brought here by some twisted, malevolent force to do battle for their own entertainment. Let's go sit down, talk about this, have a cup of tea. And he summons the House of Mystery. And he's like, if you come with me into the house, you'll get your brother back.
That's weird. Wait, so Constantine's not going to fight? No, I know he's going to double cross Brother Voodoo no matter what he does, and then he's going to end up finding a way to win.
But Brother Voodoo doesn't know that.
Okay.
So he's like, do you want your brother? Do you want your brother?
All right, fine. Okay, so Brother Voodoo goes along with it. So they go into the house of what?
They go into the House of Mystery.
Okay.
Constantine offers Brother Voodoo a cup of tea and a seat. And they sit by the fire. And Constantine's like, not a big tea drinker. I'll have a beer myself. Starts drinking his beer.
Yeah, Brother Voodoo's not going to fall for this, though, because he's not going to trust Constantine. So he's going to see this cup of tea, and he's gonna perform some kind of like voodoo chant over it and see that it's poisoned. So he's gonna find out that Constantine has double-crossed him and has stolen his brother away. So he's gonna be really pissed, and he's gonna use the Staff of Legba to fire a magic blast at Constantine and knock him out of the house.
So he just knocks him out the front door?
Yeah, he magic blasts him.
Okay, so he magic blasts him.
And he's like, don't play me for a fool, Constantine.
He magic blasts him, and Constantine flies out the front door, and he falls out of sight.
Uh-huh.
And as Brother Voodoo is like walking out of the house to go after him, the door shuts right before he could leave the house.
Okay.
Now the house can go anywhere that Constantine wants it to.
Uh-huh.
So Constantine sends the House of Mystery straight to hell.
Okay. Well, he's safe inside the house, so whatever.
That's when Constantine makes the house disappear.
Okay.
So Brother Voodoo's left in hell.
Okay, so Brother Voodoo is left in hell. He's been trapped in the land of the dead before. He sees his brother Daniel, who was sent there by Constantine. They merge together again, so he rescues Daniel, and then they jump in one of the fiery pits, and they're immune to fire, right? But the fiery pit is emitting smoke. Brother Voodoo can actually travel through that smoke to wherever he wants to go to, and he ends up traveling right back to the fighting ground where Constantine is.
And Constantine's like, oh, bollocks. You're resilient, aren't you, mate?
Oh yeah, Brother Voodoo definitely is. And so Brother Voodoo uses Daniel to enhance his strength, and he runs up and punches Constantine right in the face, knocking out like all of his teeth.
Constantine's on the ground. He's like, oh, that was a good one. He takes some of the blood from his bleeding lip and draws a sigil on the floor. And all of a sudden, this huge horde of demons spring forth and start attacking Brother Voodoo.
Okay, so Brother Voodoo throws up a magic shield using the Staff of Legba to protect himself from these demons, and protected within that shield, he starts praying to the spirits of Loa to eradicate these demons, which the spirits do. So all the demons on the field are now eradicated, and Brother Voodoo removes the shield and summons his own army by raising zombies up from the ground that grab and hold Constantine.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
And then one of the zombies bites Constantine.
They don't want to do that because his demonic blood would just like melt his face off.
Melt the zombie's face off?
Yeah.
I guess. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Vampire bites don't work against him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
he's being restrained by zombies, though.
Right. So that's when Constantine summons forth this seraphim. It's an angel with a flaming sword. And the angel starts hacking away at the zombies, and it just takes them all out.
So he summoned demons, and now he's summoning an angel?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then the angel moves towards Brother Voodoo and starts attacking him with his sword.
What is this seraphim's sword made out of?
Well, it's a flaming sword.
So it doesn't hurt Brother Voodoo at all.
Gosh,
because
dang
he's
it.
immune to fire.
All right.
So I guess Brother Voodoo is now fighting the seraphim, and I think he's going to call out Daniel again to go ahead and fight the seraphim while he deals with Constantine.
Okay.
So Jericho flies over to Constantine,
And by this time, Constantine has already fired up another cigarette.
okay, so Brother
But an
Voodoo
enchanted one that Brother Voodoo can't use to engulf him in flames again.
Okay, so Brother Voodoo lands in front of Constantine, and Constantine's not doing anything, so Brother Voodoo kind of suspects a trap or something, so he just plants his staff down and commands the Staff of Legba with its two shrunken heads to start speaking the language of Null, which can destroy things given enough time. So they start speaking, they start chattering, and Constantine just explodes, basically.
No. He would, except for the fact that while Brother Voodoo was fighting the seraphim,
Okay?
Constantine pulled an onion out of his pocket.
Okay?
And
An onion?
yeah,
He just carries an onion around with him.
he just carries an onion around with him. He's Constantine.
Okay?
He needs an onion in case he ever needs to carve a voodoo doll, which he does of Brother Voodoo.
How do you carve a voodoo doll out of an onion? I can see like a carrot or a potato or something.
No, I think you use an onion to make a voodoo doll. If Kevin Smith and Dogma are correct.
I don't remember that, but okay.
So he had this voodoo doll in his pocket, and right when all those energies go in him to blast him apart, he channels all of that energy into his voodoo doll of Brother Voodoo, and that explodes.
But once Brother Voodoo sees that Constantine's pulling out a voodoo doll, he waves his hand and performs a spell over it since he's the master of voodoo, and transforms the voodoo doll into the image of Constantine instead.
I don't think he does, because it's in Constantine's hand.
Yeah. Well, that's a good place to stop. So either Brother Voodoo is able to transform the voodoo doll into the image of Constantine, and Constantine ends up blowing up regardless, or
Brother Voodoo does.
Okay, well, I think that does it for the speculation. Let's go ahead and get into the simulations and find out who would actually win this match.
Cool.
Stats are just ridiculously hard when it comes to characters like these. We have the official Marvel Power Rankings and stuff, but when you look at their feats and you look at like some of the greatest things that they've ever done, both of these characters have incredible feats that just like make them like super powerful and yet not so powerful. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, when you have characters who could essentially almost do anything through magic,
But are severely limited.
Right. Yeah, this was tough. But stats-wise, we definitely got some like definitive answers. Like I would definitely say Brother Voodoo is a much better fighter than Constantine, for one thing. Yeah. Constantine, he's been depicted as varying levels of fighting ability dependent on who's writing him. He does have his signature move called the Constantine kick, which is essentially, just a kick to the crotch. But other than that, I would definitely give Brother Voodoo the edge on that one.
I would give Brother Voodoo the edge on both physicals and fighting ability.
Yeah.
Brother Voodoo's stronger, faster. Constantine smokes too much. He doesn't have the endurance.
It's true. But Constantine is smarter overall. There's few characters in DC who are as smart as Constantine. He's manipulated Batman and Superman. He's outsmarted Darkseid, and he's even conned both the devil and God.
Yeah, Brother Voodoo is no slouch when it comes to strategic intelligence either. We're talking about a guy who was able to outsmart Dormammu and Doctor Doom, but I don't think that he's done it on as consistent a basis as Constantine has. Constantine, who basically his whole superpower is outsmarting people.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. But when it comes to like things like like damage level and stuff like that, they're on the same level.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, I'm actually really curious to see who won this because I'm pretty sure it was a close match.
It was fairly close. So out of 1,000 simulated matches, the winner between Constantine and Brother Voodoo is Constantine.
Yay!
Constantine won 592 matches out of 1,000. So
nice.
59.2% of the time, Constantine will beat Brother Voodoo.
That's right.
Yeah, and Brother Voodoo only won 40.8% of the matches.
40.8?
Yeah. So that sucks.
Not for me.
It's too bad because I really like Brother Voodoo as a character. This stings. It's a stinging loss. I really hate Constantine, although I do respect him as a character. So that does it for this episode. Constantine beats Brother Voodoo. Go ahead and put that in your record books. In our next episode, we will be reviewing Season 3 of Daredevil.
Yes. I still have a ton to watch from that series, but I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I'm only 3 episodes in right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But if you guys are watching Daredevil Season 3 right now, go ahead and shoot us some messages. Let us know what you think of the season so far. And if you have any comments about this duel match as well, you can reach out to us via Facebook or Twitter or Instagram by doing a search for Dynamic Duel Podcast. You can also email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com.
And you can find links to all of our social media accounts at dynamicduel.com, where you can find all of our episodes, as well as links to our merch store, where we sell things, from like t-shirts and other things with with artwork from the Dynamic Duel No Prizes.
Please rate, review, share, and subscribe our show. Again, we're trying to get to 200 ratings on iTunes, so if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, right after this episode ends, please rate us. We super appreciate that.
And please share us with other people who may be interested in our podcast so that we can continue to get those ratings up. Because we only reach new people through you guys.
Yep. Yeah, so that does it for this episode, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Up and away.
True believers.